Tennessee's defense, overrated? Bank on it. What say you, Caleb?
I think we have to say they were overrated now. And the biggest reason, and by the way, since he's not on, I'm going to shout him out. John Adams was the one who wrote about this, about how he thinks he overrated Tennessee's defense. That's kind of where we got the idea for this. So I encourage you all to read his column on the Knoxville News Sentinel. I think Tennessee's defense cashed in on one of the easier schedules in the SEC. And the first question that I had first asked was, is Jermon McCoy overrated because he hadn't faced any good quarterbacks? And that seems like it was the case. Because let's be honest, Dave. Let's start with the secondary real quick. Let's start with Jermon McCoy, who we call a superstar lockdown corner. The only two times all year that we said, man, Jermon McCoy had a real bad game was when he faced Georgia and Ohio State. That's also the only two good passing games he faced all year. So,
okay,
that's kind of a concern if you think about it.
Okay, I 100% disagree with you. I don't think that they were overrated. Now, you know me, I tend to lean on the eye contest a little too much, but I see a bunch of all SEC players out there, McCoy, Pierce, maybe not elite tackles, but a lot of them. I think the offense let them down. This defense was built to get after the passer with a lead. And the offense never really, except against lower level opponents, hit that level that they could go out, step on an opponent's throat, and be up by 21 points in the first 25 minutes of the game. They never hit that. And they didn't come out in the second half most oftentimes against quality opponents and put the other teams back against the wall. Now, I don't think this is a subpar defense. I don't think this is an overrated defense. I'm just going to tell you that I think this defense was not suited to the style of offense that Tennessee put on the field. You want to blame somebody for this defense? It's not the defensive coaches. It's not the defensive players. It's the Joey Halsleys of the world, the Kelsey Popes of the world, and Josh Heupels of the world that didn't put the type of offense that Tennessee fans have become accustomed to on the field. The 12 personnel, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's a change up, and I understand you've got to do it, play two tight ends because the other stuff isn't working. But why isn't the other stuff working? Why is Mike Matthews, and I wrote about him on offthehooksports.com, why is Mike Matthews playing early against Kent State, having success, and again against Vanderbilt? I mean, to me, that just screams, oh, let's get him excited about the season. Let's throw him a cookie, and then let's throw him another cookie at the end of the year so that he doesn't transfer. Caleb, this offensive coaching staff should be ashamed of what they put on the field this year, and it undermined the defense. Sorry.
Yeah, but
the whole question is up now. Did the offense undermine the defense, or was the defense overrated?
But here's the thing. The defense is going to have to start winning games in this system. And the reason is we're underrating how teams have adjusted to Heupel's offense, which is the high safety. I mean, they were playing the high safety.
Okay, but I'm not underrating that. And I see where you're going here, Caleb, but I'm not underrating that. I'm being critical of the fact that Heupel didn't see that Josh Heupel didn't see that coming. You're right. Defenses have caught up, but you got to do something else.
Yeah, but see, with the way to adjust is kind of somewhat what Heupel did at times. He didn't do it against Ohio State, which was a mistake, which was commit to the run game. But Dave, you and I both know this. If you commit to the run game, you're not going to get those big leads early that force the offense to throw the ball on the other side. So, I mean,
okay, but where's the creativity? I mean, Tennessee did a lot of, especially in goal line situations. You know, you had the Princeton Bant plays. You had, I just didn't see a lot of creativity, and I think that's why they're bringing in Landry Jones. I think they need an influx. And listen, if I'm Kelsey Pope and Joey Halsey and Alec Ablin, I don't feel particularly confident in the fact that I'll have a job in 2026 if things don't change drastically. As a matter of fact, you know, it would be the wrong way to do somebody, but I mean, is there a possibility that after this second signing period that you could make a coaching change? I know Kelsey Pope's still out there recruiting actively, but I mean, last year's that better be his worst year of his career, or he's not going to be a successful college football coach.
This may be a topic to discuss after this one. Actually, should Tennessee make a staff change? But let's stick with the defense first, because I kind of may want to reroute and talk about that, because that's an intriguing one, Dave. Honestly, and but sticking with the defense real quick, where Dave, I test on this. We said all year this is the best. I mean, Dave, we were comparing this defensive line to the 2001 defensive line. Well, I'm sorry, but after Georgia and Ohio State, you can't say that. Let's be honest, Dave. Do you think John Henderson and Albert Haynesworth would have let Georgia manhandle them the way Ohio State manhandled Amari Thomas and Omar Norman Lott and all them?
No, but you are talking about two of the most elite defenders in Tennessee history. Now, we thought James Pierce would be of that ilk, but I'm still not exactly sure why they used him how they did, and that was dropping into coverage. And we made the excuses. Oh, he's still getting the pressures. He's getting the pressures. But at some point, I mean, don't you turn him into a guy that's just allowed to roam free to some extent? I go back to I'm not comparing him to Lawrence Taylor, but the way Lawrence Taylor played is he very rarely had any responsibilities. And they basically played 10 on 11. To me, Pierce was going to be that type of player where he would have some freedom. I don't understand, for the love of all that's holy, why he's ever in a 4-point stance.
Yeah, but the thing is, James Pierce is a little. Lawrence Taylor could whip any block possible. James Pierce can't whip any. I almost said James Taylor. Listen to me. James Pierce can't whip any block possible. Okay, it requires. Look at how. Given his frame, he always required the interior line to command some attention. Okay, and against Ohio State, they didn't. All right. I mean, I got to be honest. I was high on Amari Thomas, Omar Norman Lott, Elijah Simmons, Jackson Moy, all these guys. They were non-existent against the two elite teams they played talent-wise this year. Let me be fair. There were 3 elite teams they played talent-wise, because Alabama's actually elite talent-wise. They just had the wrong quarterback throwing the ball, okay? And so I didn't give them a lot of credit for the Alabama game, because Jalen Milroe, what you proved is if you can get a semblance of pressure and you play the high safety, Jalen Milroe was garbage, and that's what Tennessee did. So, but when you play a good quarterback like Carson Beck or a good enough quarterback like Will Howard, all of a sudden it really exposes the mediocrity of the interior line. And so I'm going twofold here. Jamal McCoy's not a lockdown corner like I thought he was, because let's be honest, Jeremiah Smith absolutely torched him. I mean, that he was out of Jamal McCoy's league. And
have you ever heard the term in football, down on his dauber? Hope that's not a dirty term. I don't think it is. Got his dauber down. Have you ever heard that? Like a wasp has a stinger, and I think it's a dauber. Maybe somebody can help me. I thought that McCoy got his dauber down.
You think he just got his will broken, basically?
I hate to say will broken, but I think he's like, hell. I mean, this is not working out. I think he's a better player than what we saw against Ohio State. I think everybody has.
But we also said he struggled against Georgia. The only 2 elite teams he played.
Okay, well, that's fair. So we're saying Jamad McCoy's overrated. We're saying James Pierce is overrated.
James Pierce is exactly what we thought he was, which is he needs the interior to command some pressure.
Okay. At the end of the day, and you can let's define successful career as over 3 years in the NFL. How many players on this football team will have successful careers in the NFL? Over 3 years is when you start to get, I think, part of your pension. 5 years is when you get it all. So let's say
on the team or the defense?
On the defense.
All right. I think Aaron Carter will be successful.
I think there's 6. I think there's 6, at least 6 guys on this defense that will have successful NFL careers, and
that will get an NFL pension, is what you're saying.
The full pension's 5 years. I don't know that they quite make it that far, but I'm defining it by playing 3 years or more in the NFL. And I think you will have 6 guys from this defense play 3 or more years in the NFL. And here's who I think they are. I think they're James Pierce. I think they're Jamad McCoy. I think they're Amari Thomas. I think this one will surprise you. I think Elijah Simmons, when he starts seeing the big dollars, is going to find a way to get healthier. I'm not questioning his toughness. I'm just saying,
He could also just, yeah, but he could make more money joining Boyz II Men and going on tour with them, given that voice.
Boyz II Men. And then as far as the other guys, I think it'll be a mixture of the Omar Norman Lotts, those type of guys. Arian Carter is going to play in the NFL.
I agree with you about Arian Carter.
Jeremiah Telander is going to play in the NFL.
He's got a lot of work to do.
Well, I agree, but you wait and see. I mean, that guy's going to come along. That's one of the problems I have with Tennessee. I don't feel like they give enough reps to their second team based on people I've talked to in practice. So I think when they have an injury, it just completely falls off. And I think you've seen that in different situations. But in particular, I think you've seen that, Caleb, with the middle linebacker position. They put all their eggs in the Keenan Pili basket.
Oh, they did on that. I agree with you on that. And Keenan Pili got hurt twice. But I still kind of look at it like,
I'm obviously that is my biggest projection.
But Dave, here's the thing,
right?
We still have to go over. You're defending the defense in terms of being good, and I think they were good. The problem is, okay, let's go back to Ohio State and Georgia real quick. I thought Tim Banks was just keeping some things vanilla versus Georgia for the college football playoff. I was wrong. He didn't have any complex blitz packages. He put everything on his front four being able to get pressure, and he didn't really mix it up much against Ohio State at all. And here's where here's why we overrated the defense. We were comparing them to some of the greatest defenses of all time in Tennessee history. And you covered those Chavis defenses, Dave. Weren't there some years where Chavis didn't really have anything complex? He just knew that everybody was going to be able to shut down who they were facing in that moment. And he didn't have that many blitz packages.
There was only one moment in his career that he had something complex. I think you're being overly nice. I mean, it was the Florida game 2001.
Well, he mixed up how
he had the Prowler package.
But he would mix up his linebacker blitzes, wouldn't he? A good bit. Or was that the players that did that themselves?
I've talked to NFL scouts. They said that was about the most simplistic defense that's ever been run, and it was all about talent. I mean,
okay.
I'm just telling you from NFL scouts and coaches that I've talked to that watched him because they were evaluating his players, and they're like, other than that Prowler package, which could have won Tennessee and SEC a national championship and did beat Florida and push Steve Spurrier out the door. So I'm not shortchanging him for that. But other than that Prowler package, you go back and watch, there are guys standing up, walking around because they knew Steve Spurrier wouldn't run the ball. Okay, other than that, it's the most simplistic defense in the history of man, and there are probably 100 other defensive coaches that were around in 1998 that could have got a similar type of response from that group.
Okay, fair enough then.
Really harsh, but that's what I believe, and that's what I've been told.
But that furthers my point. We were comparing this defense to those. Tim Banks, he's proven in the past he's not simplistic when he doesn't want it, when he needs to be complex. He did it in 2022, dialing up different blitz schemes. He chose not to do that this time, putting the faith in the talent. And the two times they played elite teams, they got beat doing it. The 98 team you just pointed out was super simplistic.
I will say this. I think the defense is still elite. I'm not willing to say it's overrated. But if I could go back and delete some YouTube comments that we made comparing it to
98
Ainsworth and Henderson and the 98 defense, we need to walk that back. But you could still be an elite defense and not be as good as the 98 group. I mean, they were incredibly elite.
Yes, but we compare this defensive line, you're right, to Hainsworth and Henderson. And I go back and look and I'm like, do you know what's funny about the 01 defense, Dave, is the only decent linebacker on that team was Dominic Stevenson. Like, that was a bad linebacker core that year.
Which year? 99?
2001.
Oh, yeah, 2001.
I mean, Eddie Moore and Keon Whiteside, no disrespect to them, but they weren't NFL linebackers. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, is that the year they lost Jason Mitchell and let him go out there and play on a torn?
No, that was 05. That was 05. That actually was a good linebacking core because that was Jason Mitchell, Omar Gaither, and Kevin Simon. But like, no, I'm talking about 01. The only good linebacker on 01 was Dominic Stevenson. Everything on that offense came down to John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth, who, by the way, turned Will Overstreet into an NFL draft pick. Again, no disrespect to Will Overstreet, but I don't think he's an NFL draft pick if he's not playing next to John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth. But we compared this defensive line to that.
Well, can you go back and pull all those YouTube clips and let's pretend we never said that? And
no, you know what I'm actually going to do, Dave, just for fun, because people do this. I'm actually going to write a column on all the dumb things we said about Tennessee this year going into the year and all the things we got wrong.
I don't know that I like the thought of that.
Because we're not Skip Bayless and Stephen A or anybody like that. We don't sit there and double down on when we're wrong. What we do is we adjust to what we see, and then we acknowledge if we were wrong. And I think sometimes we should acknowledge if we were wrong.
Okay, how about this? With the right offense, this defense that Tennessee fielded in 2024 was good enough to win a national championship, yay or nay?
Yes.
Maybe that's how we determine.
With the 2022 offense. How about that? The 2022 offense, this team's winning a national title.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't even think they necessarily need the 2022 offense. I think somewhere in between would have worked. I mean, what they had as a whole, what would you grade the 2022 offense? A+, right?
Yeah, A+, definitely.
Okay. As a whole, what would you grade the 2024 offense?
B-.
Yeah, I was going to go C+.
I can't go C+ because they had the best player in the nation, maybe, in Dylan Sampson.
Ooh, okay.
Who, by the way, proved himself to be better than Ashton Genty. Just want to point that out.
Okay, but if they said at the beginning of the year that they're going to go Peyton Lewis instead of Dylan Sampson, did we not think that Dylan Sampson or Peyton Lewis would have been pretty close?
Yes, I think Peyton Lewis would have been close. But like Dylan Sampson, we saw Peyton Lewis against Ohio State, and Dylan Sampson's a better running back. And by the way, this is rerouting. When I go down the list of dumb things I said, Dylan Sampson not a starting back in the SEC, that's at the top. Okay, that's at the top. That is right there with people, Dave, with people you covered in 2001. Remember everybody who said Travis Stevens wouldn't be a starting running back in the SEC? And by the way, I still maintain to a degree Travis Stevens was very much a product of that 01 offensive line more than anything else. But,
no, I agree, but I had more doubts about Travis Stevens than I had about Dylan Sampson this year. So I don't think you were, surely to goodness, you didn't think that you didn't have the same concerns you had headed into that 2001 season with Stevens. I mean, there were a lot of people who thought he wouldn't even make it through September.
Oh, see, I was 13 reading magazines at the time. So
okay.
I wasn't analyzing the team.
That's fair. And but no, there were a lot of people that thought that he wouldn't make it through September. So I didn't ever have Dylan Sampson on that concern level.